It's Tuesday and it's time for Falcon Focus. Welcome back to Falcon Focus. We are back after a few weeks away for spring break. It is episode number 19 here in season number 3 and our 7th episode here in semester number 2. My name is Matt Menzel, and on this week's edition, we focus on baseball. In segment number 2, we talk with baseball head coach Eddie Morgan. He is back for his 9th season. But at first, we talk women's lacrosse and women's soccer with the multi-sport athlete, that being Anna Gong. Thanks for joining us here on the Falcon Athletic Network. And Anna, thanks for your time here this morning. We talk about spring break, and for these students, they're back in session, back in school for now a couple of weeks since. But how was your spring break?
My spring break was pretty good. I got to go home, which is Arizona, so the weather was between like 70s, 80s.
Oh,
Perfect.
That's nice. How did you come back?
The cold was not the best, but I'm still adjusting to it. So,
So if you had to pick maybe one or two things when you look back at your spring break, what were the highlights of your spring break?
probably getting to hike was one of my highlights, and just getting to see family because I haven't seen them in a while.
Now, when you hike, and I understand in Arizona, it's scorpion season now, and maybe road runners and some other creatures come out around this time. How do you go about just approaching, I guess, hiking? Do you worry about those critters?
As long as you go not too late at night, so the coyotes aren't out, and not too early, then you should be fine. The scorpions aren't too bad with hiking. Most of the creatures I saw were like little groundhogs or lizards, so always fun to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when you're not playing sports or dealing with your academics, and obviously you have a busy schedule now, and we'll talk about the addition of women's lacrosse to your schedule. But what do you find yourself doing? What is your go-to as far as just killing some downtime?
For the most part, I like to be outside, so whether it's hiking or going for a swim, just going to the beach, anything like that, I love to be outside.
So right now you're kind of getting that itch probably to be outside on a more regular basis, huh?
Yeah, I'm definitely ready for spring. I'm kind of sick of seeing snow. Rain's okay, but it's a lot right now.
Yeah, not a pretty week certainly here in southeast Wisconsin weather-wise. Let's talk about women's lacrosse. I mentioned how you've added to your already busy schedule with women's soccer and your academics. What interested you in trying the sport of lacrosse?
Good question. I've always wanted to play, like, since high school. I always thought it was an interesting sport. My roommate, Eliana, suggested that I play. So after a few talks with her, I just decided it would be something nice to try.
So how much did you know about the sport of lacrosse prior to trying?
Uh, Basically nothing. I didn't know any of the rules. I didn't know any of the skill sets that you needed. I just knew that you had a stick and a ball.
So did you go about trying to learn that stuff ahead of time, or did you just go out to tryouts or practice and just kind of learn on the go?
Well, I talked to the coach, and she suggested that I do wall ball, which is just going like skill sticks against the wall, and that's mainly what I did to prepare since I didn't know anything. She also sent out some videos on like basic rules of the game, so I thought that would probably be important to watch.
What were the challenges for you the first few practices? What did it take a little bit longer to get used to in practice?
I think the main challenges were cradling the ball, which is like dribbling in most other sports. Also, shooting was a lot more difficult than I thought it would be.
It's kind of unique because, as you mentioned, you're new to the sport, so I'm curious. You're listed as an attacker and a big part of the offensive success for the Falcons. Did you get the chance to pick your position? How did you go about figuring out where you fit well on the field?
Good question. It was mostly the coach's evaluation of like my skill set and where I was comfortable. Being an attacker, it requires speed and general stick skills. So I guess after the few practices we had, my coaches figured I would be best there. And if the midfield needed a sub, then they tend to switch me there too because of my conditioning with soccer. So I can handle it.
Yeah. And with that being said, in soccer, you're number 19. I'm curious, in lacrosse, you're number 13. Did you get to pick your number, or was that assigned to you?
I did get to pick my number, but it was from a limited selection. My ideal number would have been 4, but that was taken, so 13 was as close to anything.
Because some are superstitious about number 13 not being a real lucky number.
Right.
I would venture to guess you don't subscribe to that theory.
I like to think of it as the other team would be unlucky to go against
Ooh,
me.
that's a
So
great way of looking at it. You said number 4, though, is if you could pick any number, why number 4?
4 is just the number I've had for my entire sports career, I guess, like through club soccer, high school. It's just my favorite number.
Well, let's go back to March 5th. North Central was the opponent. It was the season opener for women's lacrosse. You scored a goal on your very first shot. Go figure. How exciting was that moment for you?
That was probably one of the best athletic moments in my life. It was so fulfilling. I was just so proud, especially getting an assist from my other soccer player. It was definitely one of my favorite memories.
Probably at that point, you're like, oh, this is pretty easy. I can do this 1-for-1.
Yeah. I was like, wow, that's really surprising. Was not expecting to make that.
So 4 games now into the season. Forget about, at the moment, wins and losses and as far as the competition goes. But for you, how has this season gone as you continue to adjust to the sport?
I think I've learned a lot in general, and I'm pretty proud of where I've come from, having just picked it up like a couple months ago. The losses aren't ideal, but I think as a team we really are growing, and even though the score may not show it, our defensive skills have gotten way stronger, and our attack is still building. So.
Yeah, and absolutely making progress and moving forward, taking steps. Kalamazoo was the most recent opponent this past weekend after you guys had a road trip that got cut in half thanks to Mother Nature and snow in Indiana. But that Kalamazoo matchup on Sunday, you take a look overall, just the chemistry of this team. It's a younger squad on paper. Do you feel like the chemistry is still developing, or do you guys take a big step in coming together because you got the opportunity to be on the road for the first time this past weekend?
I think our trip definitely brought us closer together. Our chemistry is still building, I guess, because a lot of the players we all came at like different times, with Hockey coming later, and Eliana coming later from her speed skating. I think overall this past weekend was the best team bonding thing we could have had despite the loss.
Yeah, and you look and you bring up the chemistry, and so many athletes come from so many different backgrounds. So it's just a unique collection of talent formed the women's lacrosse roster. So at this point, and I know there's still a long, ways to go, but what's your favorite part about playing the sport of lacrosse? What's your least favorite part about playing the sport of lacrosse?
My favorite part is probably just getting to learn the new things and seeing my improvement. My least favorite is probably missing shots because I would like to make them.
Sure. So now spring soccer season's around the corner as well. Are you able to juggle both lacrosse and soccer?
I am doing my best to juggle both. Tonight is our first soccer practice, so I'm going to see how that goes. So I'm going to do my best to completely participate in both if I can, but not overworking myself.
So how long have you been playing the sport of soccer?
For as long as I can remember. I'm pretty sure I started when I was 3 years old, so quite a while.
So why soccer?
I'm not sure.
Not at all.
My parents just put me in it, and I loved
Okay.
it since then. I love the team atmosphere, and I guess running can be pretty fun in general.
Did you attempt to play any other sports growing up?
I did a lot of sports. I played softball for 1 year in high school. I played basketball, volleyball. I was on the swim team. I did gymnastics for a while.
And none of those stuck like soccer.
Right. I couldn't tell you why. I was pretty close to volleyball, but I figured soccer, given my height, might be a little better.
And you mentioned you're from Phoenix, Arizona. How did you end up at Concordia?
Good question. I think the main reason I ended up here was for the soccer program. I also have family, like my entire mom's side of the family, my grandparents, cousins, uncles. They all live here, and they're only 15 minutes from campus, so I figured if I came here, I wouldn't be completely alone, and it's nice to just have that option.
So with soccer, and you mentioned it, why you decided to pick up the sport of lacrosse. Did you ever envision, though, one day you'd be playing multiple sports at the collegiate level?
Not at all. It's such a blessing to be able to play both here.
In high school, you were part of I read on your bio, state championship soccer team.
Yes.
Your sophomore year. Tell us about that experience.
That was a lot of hard work. Our team beat our arch rival, which is Desert Vista.
Okay.
It was kind of a brutal game. It was so fulfilling to be able to win that, though, and come out on top.
And and so many fans that follow the team know, Concordia, at least from a women's soccer standpoint, is always in the conversation for a conference championship, a conference tournament championship. Do you feel like going back to your prep days, I know it's different levels, different competition, but does it help having been part of a state championship team, knowing kind of what it takes to get to that next level, to win the big games? Do you feel like that experience helps you at all in trying to help Concordia get to that level of winning a conference championship, getting to the NCAA tournament?
I'd say it would. It definitely gives you an idea of like what you're striving for and how hard you have to work for it. Soccer here I think it's going pretty well. We've gotten pretty close in the few years that I've been here.
How unique was it? You arrive on campus essentially during a pandemic. I mean, you talk about welcome to college, and it's anything but normal during the 2020-21 school year. How unique was it stepping on campus or coming to Concordia during what was a crazy time?
It was definitely a brand new experience, especially with soccer and the ways we had to go about drills, like with distancing and whatnot. It was something I'd never experienced before.
Was it odd not knowing when and if the soccer season would even begin last year?
It was a little strange. I just knew that I had to focus on what I could control and rely on that.
And you eventually did get to step on the field in the springtime. In fact, you started your very first collegiate soccer matchup back on March 21st of 2021 against Marion. For you, what was the biggest difference playing college soccer versus playing at the high school level?
I'd say the biggest difference was having to compete for your spot. That was definitely different. And also having to learn a different position in college.
So then you go from the spring season to a quick turnaround and back to the normal fall start this past fall. When you look at 1 year to the next, where do you feel like you made maybe some big strides? Where did you improve maybe? What areas from 1 year to the next?
I'd say my overall skills and fitness level had to improve, especially with our fitness standards being raised over the summer. I spent most of my summer working out and running, so I felt that a lot of those skills had improved.
Did it help, I guess, to kind of finally have a full training camp, if you will, prior to this past season versus kind of piecing it together the year before?
I'd say it was definitely beneficial to have a full schedule and be almost back to normal.
You end up finishing with 8 goals, 3 assists in the fall, which included a goal and a couple of assists against Alverno. How thrilling was that to get that first collegiate goal?
Honestly, I didn't even realize it was my first goal.
Really?
But it was amazing. After people pointed out to me, I was like, oh, yeah, that was my first.
Overall, as we wrap things up, what goals do you have for yourself going forward in both the sports of soccer and lacrosse for you individually, but then also for the team?
I'd say for lacrosse, my goal is to just continue improving in my skills, and I'm hoping to get a win this Wednesday. For soccer, it would also just be working on my fitness level and skills and hopefully getting some more play time.
And you mentioned Wednesday. Hope to see the fans out at Fitting Field. It's the conference opener, Concordia Chicago against the Falcons of women's lacrosse. That is a 5 o'clock start, a big one because Concordia Chicago expected to be right above the Falcons if you look at preseason poll, but tomorrow could go a long way in overtaking that preseason poll. So be out at Fitting Field on Wednesday. Anna, thanks a lot for your time. All the best this lacrosse season, and we'll be cheering for you.
Thank you.
That's Anna Gong, and when we come back, we focus on baseball. We'll be joined by their head coach, Eddie Morgan, as the Falcons get ready for the start of a 7-game homestand. That starts Friday against Edgewood. This is Falcon Focus on the Falcon Athletic Network.
Since 1978, Lutheran Church Extension Fund has had the humble privilege of supporting the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod in fulfilling its mission of sharing the gospel.
Thanks to our faithful investors, we provided thousands of church workers, congregations, schools, and organizations with the resources they need to reach more people with the saving name of Christ. It's what we do.
Because our greatest joy comes from seeing LCMS Ministries and her workers thrive, we will continue to make precious resources available, both today and far into the future. It's our promise to you.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund. We want to be part of your great and exciting work.
Welcome back to this week's edition of Falcon Focus. We switch our focus now to baseball as they get ready for the start of a 7-game homestand. That starts Friday with a conference opening doubleheader against Edgewood. First pitch of Game 1 scheduled for 1 o'clock. As of now, the team is scheduled to play a non-conference matchup at Milwaukee on Wednesday. First pitch at 3, but the weather forecast not looking pretty. Being joined by the head coach of the baseball team, Eddie Morgan, back for his 9th season. And right now, the Falcons sit with 6 victories, 7 defeats after what has been a challenging non-conference slate. But before we talk about the here and now, and I know you're more of a in-the-moment guy versus looking at the past and looking toward the future, but let's talk about the past for a minute. And this is a Falcon team that went 25-17, 12-8 in conference play, won the NAC North Division tournament title last spring. When you kind of look back at the team's success during what was a unique season, in your opinion, what was the driving force behind that success?
Well, Matt, we've got a lot of talent, and it's really about trying to learn to play as a pack, as we call it. And I thought last year we came together as a group, and it takes a while. Just like so far, early in the spring, we don't have spring training like the pros do, so we have a lot of kinks to work out. We got to figure out rotations, but at the end of the day, baseball comes down to really being able to play together, 1 through 9, having a starting rotation, having roles in the bullpen. And I thought last year we did a tremendous job with that, and we got better as the season progresses. Wish we had more games. I mean, that's why they play so many games at the big league level, to work everything out. And we're kind of in that stage right now of just trying to figure out who we are, what roles can guys play. But we are talented, but we're capable of much more.
Talking about the uniqueness of last season with the divisional format, you end up playing the same divisional team back-to-back days, home-and-home doubleheaders. So you essentially played, for instance, Edgewood for 4 straight games. Are there challenges? Obviously, now you play a team in a doubleheader, then the next day you play a different team in a doubleheader. But are there challenges playing the same team for 4 consecutive games versus just a single doubleheader?
Yeah, you can't surprise anybody. Both teams know each other, and you're going to know their tendencies. And that's the difficulty of it. And trying to beat somebody 4 times in a row, no matter what level it's at, is difficult. And really, you can get on a groove, and it could be gone in a heartbeat because of one pitcher. But I kind of like the format. You're challenged in a different way than you would if you got to bounce back and play another team. So it was exciting to do, and it was kind of almost like an all Wisconsin conference, which was kind of neat.
When you look at this season's roster, a lot of experience back, especially in that offensive order. What was your focus, or what is the focus? What was the mindset in preparing for this 2022 campaign?
To elevate the level to national levels, I guess you could say. And we played a team in Arizona in Chapman University that won the College World Series a few years back, and they're one of the better teams on the West Coast. And to be able to see how they go about their business, see their size, and see their approach at the plate, that's where we want to be. And that was great for us. And we just gotta keep after it when it comes to any little things, such as the weight room, being able to play in the cold, because that's what we got to deal with. So it really comes down to the little things, and at the national level, they do those little things very well.
13 games in, where do you feel the team's at this moment?
We still got a lot of growth going on, even though we got a lot of returners. Like I said, we're capable of much more. It's a great thing to play really competitive teams, which we have. It really will tell us where we're at. The hard part for spring sports in particular is we don't get a lot of chance to be outside. So as we tend to get better as the season progresses, because we get to get outside and we get to practice more. But this is a good thing for us to play challenging teams. Like tomorrow, hopefully, fingers crossed, we get to play UW Milwaukee at Division I, which was great for us. It's just going to allow us to see how far can we go when we get hit in the face. Can we get back up? That's really what this is all about. And we'll be better for it when we face challenges down the road, because we're facing challenges early on, and we get to see how do we manage adversity. And at the end of the day, E plus R equals O. How do you respond to that event? and that's going to dictate the type of season you're going to have.
Certainly it helps with all the experience back, but do you have a pretty good sense at this point of what that lineup is going to look like on a daily basis, 1 through 9?
Yeah, I think, at least at every position outside of left field, which we're still kind of platooning to trying to figure out who's going to win that battle, we're pretty set. I'll tell you what, Sean Tillman's off to a great start. He's a potential All-American, athletic. He's got the swagger. He's got everything I look for in a shortstop. And there's still a lot of room for him to grow. Obviously, Sam Beers is coming back from a great year last year, and he's working hard to try to evolve his game. We talk a lot about what we did last year doesn't really mean a lot, and what are you going to invent in your game, and you see it at the big league level. Everyone's trying to get a little bit better at their craft, and Sam is. I tell you, he's one of the hardest workers I've ever been around. That kid loves baseball more than anybody. He eats, sleeps, drinks. He's, we're on a basketball court here. They call him gym rats. He's a baseball rat. He's a cage rat, and that typically bleeds over to everybody else, especially the young players when they see that. He is self-made. It's not anything to do with the coaching staff. We'll give him some advice. We'll give him some tips, but it's up to him. Kyle Kosabucky is as good as you're going to find behind the plate. He's off to a little rough start, but he's putting the ball in play. He's lifting the ball, and those things will eventually. That's why I don't look at batting average. We're looking at quality at bats. We're looking at his approach. His situational awareness, and he's obviously middle part of the lineup. Had a great year last year, and he's going to get going, and that's going to help us. Fifth-year senior Drew Johnson is off to a great start. I think he leads us with RBIs. He's come up a few times in big situations, and we know he's going to give us a quality at bat. We want to get Tristian Largent going at first base. I keep telling him we want doubles from him, and he's going to get there. He's coming off a pretty serious surgery. He had basically some hip issues, almost a hip replacement.
Wow!
And so for him to bounce back within a year, and he's producing. It's just we want him to produce more power-wise. Probably the best center fielder in the country. Now he could tell you he's not playing up to his level. Johannes Hackenson is. He came in as a shortstop, and we've definitely seen his growth. He runs. He gets great jumps. He's got a plus arm. I would put him as one of the best center fielders in the country. So position player-wise, and there's a number of guys that we could say and talk about where we need to be talent-wise. Our rotation, we're still working out some things, but Tyler Drezik has the stuff to be a number one. Ryan Green's been around a number of years. He's got to understand what it takes to keep his composure sometimes, and we're working on that, and he knows it, and he's working his tail off, and we're going to work through some things, but he's a potential number one as well. He's got the stuff, the makeup to be able to do it. Freshman Zack Sloam is what I call kind of a young version of a Greg Maddux for us old school baseball guys. He didn't have his stuff in his last outing, but he throws strikes. He throws multiple pitches for strikes. He's going to be a special one, and he's got the work ethic, and he's got the mindset and the mentality to be a future number one. Ben Spears, I think he's going to be he's going to have a big year. He's every time he steps on the mound, he has some sort of PR personal record. Yesterday in a bullpen, he had a PR velocity-wise. So he's going to just keep getting better and better. And so we're happy with where our four starters are. We have some things to figure out in the bullpen. We've kind of changed some roles a little bit. Connor Krausenek is now our closer, and we moved Bo to kind of the setup role. And who was our closer for the last couple of years and has been tremendous. We just feel like Connor with his velocity can change some things up. He sits anywhere from 87 to 90 and can come in there and pump strikes. So we got a freshman in Chris Rooney that throws a lot of strikes, throws a little sidearm. So we've got a lot of options. We got some freshman arms that just they're pups. They're not ready yet, but they're going to be special. So not only this year, but next year, we've got a lot of growth and we've got a lot of talent to do something special.
You mentioned Zack Sloam, and in his collegiate debut, or at least his first collegiate start, he came out and pitched a 7-inning complete game, no-hitter against Bethany Lutheran. That was on March the 12th. 10 strikeouts, couple of walks. When we look at that pitching performance, what was working for him that day?
Oh, he had everything going. I mean, for a freshman to come in and do that his first start, it was pretty special to watch. But he attacked his zone. That's what he is. He can pitch both sides of the plate. When he's on, to be able to throw or work backwards and throwing 2-0 breaking balls for strikes and 3-1 changeups for strikes with movement, he was just in the zone that we've seen it. We've been around baseball a long time and you could tell just from his body language from the first pitch on that they're not going to beat him today. And and then the guys they feel that power of synergy. They feel his big body language. And, now they're playing really good defensively behind him. And they did enough to score some runs. And, once he got in that groove, you could just tell, like, no shot. Now, a no-hitter, that's tough to do. It wouldn't surprise me that in his career I see another one from him.
You mentioned the bullpen. Not to put too much weight on their shoulders, but how key is their development to this team's ultimate success?
It's everything, and we've talked to them about it, and we don't want them to overanalyze it. But for us, if for us to have any success to contend for a championship, it's going to come down to our bullpen. There's no doubt about it. We'll score runs, but we can't score runs every single game. That's baseball. So pitching and defense, and I think our defense has elevated itself the last couple of years. We're better than we were last year defensively, and we just need guys to come in there, throw strikes with multiple pitches. And when, what we've struggled so far with is when we have faced some adversity, the bullpens come in, we need that stopper, and we need that guy to put out the fire, not put gasoline on it. And it comes down to just having the mentality. Showed a video with some of our leadership group last night of a lion mentality. And we've just got to go in there, hey, I'm king of the jungle. I'm the man. I'm going to, whether I feel good today or not, my stuff is good enough to beat you. And that's what we need to see from them, and we need to see that in their body language. And then that whole power of synergy is going to just be amazing to watch as we grow, because it's just going to, no matter who we throw in there, everyone's going to have that confidence that, hey, we're going to get the job done. So at the end of the day, our season will go as our bullpen goes.
When you look at the wins and losses so far, the season began with a home-and-home split against Carroll. You had the annual spring break trip, in this case to Arizona. Team went 5-4. Your takeaways from that experience in Arizona?
Yeah, we beat the teams we should have beat, and we kind of knew what we were facing when we faced Chapman, and to be honest with you, we had Drezick going, and he was pitching really well. I mean, they have 3 or 4 potential draft picks on that team. I've done this for a long time, as you know. That might be talent-wise one of the better Division IIIs I've ever seen. Okay, and they got out to a quick lead on us, but we found a way to fight back and get back in the game, and then they just kind of took it from us towards the end of the ball game. But it showed the guys that, hey, we're not that far away. We really aren't. Then we played Valley City State at NAIA school, scholarship school, and we got, and that was the kind of thing we got down early and had to fight our way back, and we've got within a couple runs late, and we just couldn't put it together. And then the last day showed a lot. We got down really good Gus Davis team, and got down 9-rip and came all the way back to tie it. Now it was a tough game because it was our getaway day. We had a flight to catch. The game was originally scheduled to start at 9 a.m. and I pushed it to 8:30, knowing that our games down there have been long, and we had a 11:25. Can't start an inning stop time. Well, the way the game was going, we got to top of the 7th, and it was about 11:10. Now we're rushing, and it just got out our comfort zone. They got a wind-blown home run to go up 10-9. We had first and second going in the 8th, and we couldn't push anything across, and then the game's over. So if we played full 9, something else could have happened. But it was great to see, especially the end of a long 10 days, to battle back the way we did against a really good team. And so we're close to beating those teams, and we knew at U.S. Bank and USAW, we knew that Bethel and Gus Davis, probably one of the better teams in Minnesota, and the MIAC and potential NCAA tournament teams. We knew where they were. We just had one of those days we didn't show up to play.
You bring up Thursday, U.S. Bank Stadium up in Minneapolis, home of the Minnesota Vikings for football, but turned into a baseball venue in the springtime for the Golden Gophers and some area schools. You guys were there last year as well against Augsburg, but does it take some getting used to regardless how many games you've played there? It's a huge venue, and it seems to play bigger than maybe it actually is. I mean, you look at field dimensions, it's typical, but it just seems like it's a lot larger than a typical baseball field. Does it take some getting used to?
Absolutely. The lighting, the dimensions, it's just a weird setup.
The lack of noise.
The lack of noise. And so Bethel, obviously, they've played a number of games there over the years, so they're used to it. We're
30.
We're not used to it. I'm not going to use that as an excuse, but it definitely is a challenge. And I told our guys that we want challenges. We want adversity, because on the other side of it is where you grow, not only as a young man, but as a baseball player. And so when we put ourselves in those types of positions, if you have the right mindset and understanding, losing is learning. And we're only losing if we don't get better from this point forward. And so a pretty cool experience, a pretty neat experience to be able to do that. I'm a Vikings fan, so, I like kind of looking around, daydreaming a little bit. But it's something that our guys, when we put the schedule together, we're just trying to create different environments.
Let me ask you this. You talked about the getaway day and time becoming an issue. Obviously, when you're at U.S. Bank Stadium, time limit, and you're trying to get 2 7-inning games in, essentially, 5 hours, give or take. Does that come into play where all of a sudden now you're sitting there in the back of your mind going, okay, there's a clock in left field. Yeah. You can see it counting down. It almost seems like you kind of play out of sorts and you kind of rush, so to speak, to get games in or get innings in. Yeah, and we talk a lot about the power of routine, and that's baseball. Guys just fall in love with the routines, and if they get out of the routines. But I also told our players, listen, there's certain things we can control and certain things we can't. And we'll have to adapt to that situation if we want to win at a high level. So it comes with different pressures. And obviously, we had like 3 minutes to hit ins and outs and get some work in pregame, and then we're right into it. And if you don't get off to a right start, it could tumble like it did. And but that's the challenge, and we talked to the guys yesterday about, hey, we're going to be back now into our routines, and so we can go ahead and understand that we know that when there's challenges, which could be weather issues, delays, who knows in the Midwest with what goes on. So, we're going to be able to handle it much better because of those situations we were in. So, again, for the Falcons, they will be at Milwaukee on Wednesday, weather permitting, a Panthers team that's off to a 7-8 start. Past Wednesday, whether that game gets played or not, a 7-game homestand begins on Friday with Edgewood at 1 o'clock, conference opening doubleheader, and then Wisconsin Lutheran is here on Saturday at 12 p.m. Just based on what maybe you've seen in non-conference play, maybe from just the past, how do you see the NAC stacking up baseball-wise this season? Certainly Aurora, a top 25 team. They're the cream of the crop, if you will, the team to beat coming into the season. But how do you see the NAC kind of shaping up? Every year keeps getting more competitive. Since I first started 9 years ago, whatever it was, and to where we're at today as a baseball conference, it's more competitive than ever. And I came from the WIAC, and I know how good especially the top couple teams are up there. But overall, the general balance, everybody's got a really good number one and a number two. And what separates, the high-end teams are those that have 3 and 4 legit starters on the bump. But as far as the conference as a whole, from top to bottom, it is more competitive than ever. If you don't show up to play, you will get beat. If you don't throw it across the plate, you'll get beat. If you don't make plays defensively, you'll get beat. Talent-wise, it just seems like there's, there's potential 4 or 5 All-Americans in the conference this year. And it's exciting. We do have challenges as a conference moving forward. It's a lot of teams. Yeah. And how are we going to schedule this to make it good for our student athletes? Including missed class time. But it is where it is right now, and we're excited for the challenge. And I know the conference as a whole is really competitive outside of the conference in the early stages as well. I know goals for players, coaches, I'm sure every year, winning a regular season, tournament championships. This is a program that's become now an annual 20-plus win squad. is a goal at this point now to up the ante, get to that 30-win plateau, maybe beyond?
Yeah. You know, we don't have a banner in the field house. I keep reminding our guys that. It's going to take a special group to do it. Once we do it, then it will become an annual thing. You have to earn it first, and then things start kind of falling in place. We're not good enough yet. You know, we haven't done it. 30 wins is where we need to be. We want to be at the NCAA level. I keep talking and recruiting, and we want to be at the national level. We have challenges, but if we don't put that dream out there, we'll never get to the mountaintop, right? And once you do get to the mountaintop, there's other challenges.
Oh, yeah.
That is. But for right now, we keep talking about building a legacy. Which group wants to be the first? Which group wants to set the stage? Every year I feel like we're getting better as a culture, as a program, our recruiting, but it's going to take a special group of young men to come together and run as a pack, as we call it. For the strength of the wolf is the pack, and the strength of the pack is the wolf. We're going to survive together as a pack. We can't play as lone wolves. Lone wolves go to die. And for our survival as a program, we need to do it together. And once a group figures that out, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but more championships are going to come.
So to wrap it all up, what's it going to take to make this a special season?
It's what we talked about last night with our leadership group, is to really finally get a mentality of that Lion mentality at the same time playing, 1 through 9, bullpen, everybody hitting on full cylinders as a pack. For us to surround and take down a number 1, an Aurora, a Chapman, we have to do it together. And if you put the time in, and you put the effort in, you have the right mindset, that's where breaks start going in your place. When you face adversity, staying together and understanding that, hey, this is good for us. And if you have that belief, and if it's not about just me, it's about the team and sacrificing for your brother, that's when you're going to find that championship ring.
Well, Coach, as always, all the best.
Yes.
Looking forward to watching you guys play at Capco Park, and thanks for your time this morning.
I appreciate it. You're the best as usual.
Yeah, it's debatable. That's Eddie Morgan. Thanks to Anna Gong. Thanks to Josh Tinkelman, Clara Chambers. Thank you for watching. We'll do it again next week. Falcon Focus here on the Falcon Athletic Network.